Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Collective, hosted by WFG National Title. I'm your host, Lisa Suazo, and today I am joined by our sponsor and my colleague, Kelsey McMaster. Kelsey,
Hi,
say
everybody.
hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us today, Lisa.
Of course. Yes, thank you for joining me. So on the Collective, guys, we highlight real estate industry influencers, top producers, authorities. And today, Kelsey and I are so honored and thrilled to be joined by the real estate doctor himself, Mr. Chad Nash. Chad, thanks for being with us.
How are you? Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate being in your presence. Is great. And thank you, Kelsey, for the invite as well.
Of course.
Yes. So, Chad, we are so curious about you. We know, I know that you've only been in the business a short time, about 3 years or so. And in that time, you have really grown. You've risen to the top 2% of team production at Compass at your brokerage. But we also know that you have an interesting background. You have a PhD. You have multiple advanced degrees, in fact. And so I'm curious about what your story is. It seems like you must have pivoted a little bit from your initial plan into real estate. So would you just walk us and our audience through your journey and what made you choose real estate?
Absolutely. So before I tell a little bit of my story, I think you give a little bit too much credit to the PhD. My mom says it means piled higher and deeper and bull crap. So don't let the credential fool you. But yeah, I think I've taken a very unorthodox path into real estate. Prior to real estate, I was in education. So went to school. I did my undergrad in economics, did my master's in higher education, and did my PhD in statistics and research and evaluation methods. I always thought I wanted to be in academia. That's where I always worked. That's where my heart and my passion were. I come from a community, I come from Montbello. So if folks know where Montbello is or how Montbello was growing up, when we were growing up, there weren't a lot of opportunities for higher education. And that's what I wanted to give back to originally. So my heart was always in education, trying to help create pathways for marginalized communities to access and succeed in education. So I did that for about 10 or so years, worked in between higher education and the K through 12 setting, a lot on the philanthropy side, the fundraising, the research and evaluation method sides. And I guess where the story kind of took a turn is a few years ago, I was approached by the CEO of our charter school network. I was working with the largest charter school network in Denver. And basically they were doing a reorganization. So I was given the option to reorg into a different space within the network. And they were basically taking away the duties that I like to do, which was the external relationship building piece. So I was presented with kind of a crossroads. And as I was thinking through what my next steps were going to be, I knew something was telling me I needed to find what I was passionate about. I think that I had already kind of hit my wall of working in corporate and private America and working for somebody. I think that I was always kind of bumping up against that frustration. So I looked at it as a time to really venture out and recraft and rebrand my professional self. So real estate actually wasn't on my radar. And I think it was just a happenstance conversation, a couple of conversations with a mentor of mine who at the time, he was the regional administrator for HUD. So, HUD and HUD homes and all that kind of stuff. And we would always talk because I had big goals of opening up and starting a community foundation for far northeast Denver. So which encompass like Montbello and Green Valley. And one of the tenants in that community foundation was going to be around like affordable housing and home affordability, because those are the conversations that we would hear a lot about. How do we invest and create land trust and things of that sort? And he told me, he said, hey, if you're going to do this, you may as well, you got the time. They've given you a nice severance package from your district. Go ahead and get your real estate license. And, I looked at him and I was like, why would I ever want to get a real estate license? Like that doesn't even appeal to me. And what I always thought about real estate was kind of like that HGTV, happy go lucky.
Fixer upper.
Right. Like you just have to be
And
this.
glamour.
Right. The glitz and glamour, always smiling and cheesy. And I was like, I would never want to do anything like that. And I think after a couple of conversations with them, he helped me to understand how at least having that license may be a stepping stone to what I ultimately wanted to achieve within our community. So I went and got it. I went to Armbrust Real Estate Institute, and lo and behold, what happened was, as I'm sitting in the classes, and I don't say this in an egotistical manner or whatnot, but I realized as I'm sitting in the classes and my colleagues that are around me, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, like this is, I was a little concerned because I was like, I don't, a lot of the stuff was coming natural to me and people were finding it difficult. And I was like, maybe I do know a little bit more about the real estate, or at least, how to learn about it than I believe. And I just kind of went full force with it. And I gave myself about 6 months. So after I got the license, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this realtor thing for about 6 months. And if I like it, cool. If I don't, I still have my degree and I can fall back on that, or I can do what I was originally going to do, which was fundraising, consulting, and community work. And I fell into it. And I say within the first month, I fell in love with it. And I think just from then it's been on ever since, just going and going. And, every day I think I fall in love with it over and over again, which is that's relationship goals, right? You want to fall in love every day with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's so cool. I mean, it sounds like if your heart and kind of purpose, even in education, was to create pathways for marginalized communities, in real estate, you can absolutely do that as well, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And I know that, I think one of the things that I've come to know about you is that you're just really passionate about bringing awareness, pathways, if you are awareness, I would say, to sort of what you call the isms in real estate. So I would love to just have you tell us more about that. What are the pathways? What are the isms that you're talking about? And really, what are you hoping to bring awareness to or to shift?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I knew going into real estate, I said, hey, if I can't make this impactful for me on a personal level, then I know I'm not going to have any fun in this, because there's the sales aspect, but that just becomes routine, buying and selling a home in homes. And if I can't make this authentic in the things that I'm passionate about, I'm not going to feel satisfied. And there really were clear parallels, as you mentioned, between real estate and coming from the education space. And as I started to look more and more at it, I said I can bring those same passions and those same lenses that I've been working through in education, which is, we call it DEI work in education, so diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I always use my lens in education to do that kind of work. And I said, man, if I can bring that same passion and perspective and become an advocate for those type of issues in a field such as real estate, where for better or worse, you really don't hear or see those conversations taking place around those isms. So we talk about like the racism, classism, sexism, genderism, ableism, right? Like LGBTQ issues. There's so many issues that we don't discuss in real estate. And I've been slowly but surely being able to find ways to be an advocate around those type of issues and bring awareness, not only to my clients but to my colleagues and to different referral partners within the industry, to just kind of open their eyes to say, like, look, hey, these types of things do happen, and we have to be aware, because for whatever reason these conversations don't take place as much in real estate as they do in some of these other kind of spheres.
Mhm.
Chad, why do you think that is? Why do you think those conversations aren't taking place? Do you think people are uncomfortable or they just don't know how?
I think both. So when you think about it from like an education standpoint, right? These are conversations that we have routinely going through college and college classes and in advanced college training classes. So we have these kind of intergroup conversations and dialogues, across differences. Well, if you look at real estate, there is no one platform for folks who don't look like each other just to come come across, sit across from each other and learn from each other. The
Mhm.
only way a lot of realtors see somebody who looks different or speaks different or sounds different than themselves is during a transaction, right?
Sure.
We don't do a lot of classes and training, where there's dialogue versus, based on like intergroup relations. So coming from a field like education where that was kind of ingrained, you come to real estate and you say, hey, and this is not a knock from colleagues from any one sphere, but let's say you have a colleague that grew up only in Cherry Hills, right? And they have clients or clientele who are looking on the north side of Denver. Well, you can't reasonably expect that they're just going to automatically feel comfortable with some of the cultural dynamics of neighborhoods that look a little bit different than them if there hasn't been like any they haven't been exposed to it. So I think when you talk, because real estate, there is such a low barrier of entry, and I'm not knocking that to say there people are unqualified, but it's easy to get into real estate. You don't have to have certain classes or certain standards to get into real estate outside of the real estate classes and to keep up your CEC credits, right?
Mhm.
Um, it just they don't happen. It's not the professional space isn't built to be conducive to those kind of conversations, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So a little birdie might have told me that you have a new opportunity to help kind of engage that community and a community awareness. Um, are you doing something with inclusion and diversity, or can you tell us about that opportunity a little?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
well,
waiting for the little birdie to come back and tell me exactly what I'm going to be doing. But yeah, I mean, an opportunity was presented. From my understanding, and I don't know the full details, so forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn. But having the honor and an opportunity to serve SMEDRA, so the South Metro Denver Real Estate Association, on one of their committees, diversity and inclusion, as the vice chair. So for me, that it comes full circle because I, I I told my team and I told my mentors, I said, I want 2021 to really be focused on me giving back and me really, tuning
Awesome.
into these issues that I'm passionate about and really creating that voice above and beyond the transactions. So year one, I was wildly successful as an individual realtor. Year two, I built a team that's been, I wouldn't say wildly successful, but successful in their own right. And year three, I really want to get into that personal side of building that identity of being known as an advocate for those issues. So being a part of SMEDRA and on that committee, it's just an honor to be able to kind of serve and bring a different perspective.
That's so cool. Well, congratulations. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
So exciting. So exciting. So you mentioned kind of looking forward to 2021. I'm curious as we're kind of rounding out the end of 2020, which has been a doozy of a
Uh,
year.
yeah. Uh,
So,
seriously.
man, right? Well, I'm curious to know, and I think our audience would be curious to know what for you have been the biggest balance, biggest challenges that you personally have faced, or professionally, I should say, probably in 2020. But then also on the flip side of that, what do you feel like were the biggest gifts of this year?
Yeah. Um, when I started thinking about that, right? So I guess to go a little bit deeper
Mhm.
into that. So we come from a community of giving and giving back and helping others to, um, you become like a stepping stone. And we always say, I'm only here because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm just a peon. So I've always had that mentality, right, of giving back. And it's been this year even more so. It's been in kind of a contention with the payoff and the benefit of real estate, right? Because here you are as an entrepreneur. So when we started going through the shutdowns originally, in April and May, um, the realism hit, when you start hearing about like essential occupations and essential industries, and all around you, people are getting laid off and people are being just burdened with this pandemic. And I mean, in tough ways, even having spells of having to have conversations with clients like, hey man, I'm losing my job, I got furloughed, this and that, like real life issues.
Mhm.
And on the flip side, we're in real estate where we are deemed essential. And not only essential, I mean, we profit quite well. I mean, we do hard work, but we profit quite well in the industry monetarily. So
Mhm.
you're looking out there and you're like, damn, you almost feel like a sense of you feel bad. You start to feel bad even about yourself because as I think and I know Kelsey is well aware of this, and Lisa, you being in marketing, part of how we build our business is through exposure and social proof and showing like, hey, we're doing a good job in this industry. Well, you're showing all this and you're showing these closings and you're happy and smiling and you got people over here who are getting into ownership, but the same, you got a whole nother segment who are looking at you like, damn, I
Struggling.
just I just lost a job.
Yeah.
And then people, going back to that HGTV reference earlier, people think that real estate is just glitz and glamour. And they're like, oh, there's Chad with another steak dinner or whatnot. You know what I mean? And not not realizing like, hey, this is part of the marketing piece that I intentionally put together. Um, so that's been the biggest struggle. Like, how do you be mindful of what's going on in society and use your voice to not marginalize even clients who love you because they're looking at you some type of way, and people from your community are like, damn, Chad is getting to it and we're over here struggling, because a lot of people are struggling, right? But I think at the same time, that gift in it, and this is what I've come to really appreciate every day that I wake up. Um, we're in such a privileged position in real estate, right? I mean, we're simply a conduit and a tool to help people achieve some of the most monumental achievements in their life: home buying, home selling, investing, building a portfolio. And some realtors, I don't think, realize how privileged of a position that is to be if somebody's calling you to say, help me get to this next step in life, right? So, to your question, Lisa, one of the greatest gifts is still that realization that even with all that's going on, you're still in a trusted position to help individuals get from one place to another in their own life. And you're able to still do that on a high level. Like, to me, that's a gift and that's a privilege. And I would also say, and I know I don't want to belabor too long on just this question, but also building my team, and also looking at those 13 individuals, and they're all in different places in their own career. But even over just this last year, even how tumultuous it's been, being able to help them get from one place to another in their own professional life, I just think it's such a privileged position to be in. And I wake up every day like, damn, I cannot believe I'm literally doing this for a living. I just can't believe it.
That's so amazing. I love that. Chad, what inspires you to get up and do what you do every single day?
I would say just that. I mean, that really is. I mean, to know, some days are tough. And there was a point, okay, I'll be transparent. There was a point, my business, I haven't done it long, but there was a point over the summer where business was just flowing and flowing. And I mean, just coming, right? And I didn't really have a lot of systems in place for that capacity, right? I could do it all on my own, but I didn't have others surrounding me to help. And I was becoming like a negative Nancy, right? Like, I would wake up in the mornings and I'm like, damn, I got to make these phone calls. Oh my God, client A, B, and C is calling me at 8:00 in the morning to complain. And I'm like, man, it was draining. It was literally draining. But again, I don't know what it was, Lisa, and I don't know what day it was, and I don't know if I watched something on TV and I dreamt about it at night, but I literally woke up one day with just a different perspective on it. And I said, man, how many people would die to be in this position to have clients calling them, 5 clients calling them at 6, 7, 8:00 in the morning, trying to figure out if their closing is coming up next week? How many people would kill to be in that position?
Yeah.
And here I am sitting here like, oh, just give me a breather, give me a breath, let me take a day off. And it just inspired me. And I just looked at it and I said, you know what? You can't take this for granted, right? And yes, it is still tough. It's still hard, especially when, you're pulled in so many different ways. But I would much rather be in a position of distrust to say, hey, if they're going to pull somebody in multiple directions, it may as well be me. Right? And there's a blessing in being that person.
Yeah.
And that inspires me because, again, it's just knowing, literally knowing, because to us, these deals might become repetitive. Get them under contract, get them to closing, get them under contract, get them to closing. Right. But man, when you talk to these clients and they're so appreciative and they're like, I would not be here, because if it weren't for you. And you're like, hey man, you're thinking like, I don't know, maybe you got there in spite of me. I probably could have messed it up for you. But just knowing that they hold that in their heart.
Yeah, that I think is so meaningful. And I think that that's a great lesson for all of us. Like, Kelsey, I don't know if you feel that way, but it's so true. It's like the stress talking versus the power of perspective. Like when you're just able to shift into seeing things from that, that place of gratitude. And it can be a big shift.
Yeah, I think mindset can be everything, especially, what we've seen this year, and being able to pivot, but also have gratitude for the problems we have, right? Like, that's my problem today. I'll take it, right? So yeah, I think I've definitely experienced that as well. And the need to go from things are tough, but they could be a lot tougher. And I'm so lucky that this is my tough.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we just have, we'll start to wrap it up here. I think we just have a couple more questions. What advice, or Kelsey, do you want to ask this one?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
I'll
Yeah, so for new agents starting out or an agent that might be experiencing a slump in their business, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think that's always it, because you're trying to think back, like, oh man, do I tell them what I did from the start, and then you can't remember what you did from the start. You're like, I don't know. But honestly, I think at the beginning of this year, before even COVID hit, and maybe at the end of the last year, it's easy to get into this entrepreneurial space and feel like you're just working for yourself, right? You're just working with no accountability. You get to do what you want, make your own schedule, right? And then you do a deal, you get paid, oh, you go travel, this and that. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned towards the end of last year was to truly be successful and sustainable in this industry is that you have to treat everything as a business, right? So your systems, you have to have great systems. You have to always, keep your eye towards how do you build capacity just around yourself, and some of those systems that are going to help you give your clients a great experience. Staying organized, right? So the benefits of having, like, I would tell any agent, as soon as you get into the door, like the whole talk around CRMs, the client relationship management systems, learn that quickly, right? Learn that quickly. And the reason why, like, I came from fundraising where we use CRM. So a lot of people ask me, what was my leg up in real estate? And I really think it's because I understood how to take and structure my business quickly through a CRM, which allowed me to automate and know how to follow up, who to follow up, why to follow up, and when to follow up, continually. Where I see a lot of agents who've been doing it for years, they still don't have a good grasp on what a CRM is. But I say that in the larger context of treat it like a business. So at the end of last year, I got my accountant. I got an accountant for the first time, right? Not just somebody who does my taxes, but actually paying somebody to help me understand, like, my P&Ls and how much am I bringing in, how much am I spending. And it made me rethink, like, look, man, you can fly by night in this game and make money every month, but you're living like month to month, or you're living year to year. So if you're not really setting yourself up from a business standpoint, get you a great accountant, get in contact with a good real estate attorney, have things in place, talk to a good wealth management person up front. Because what I think I see a lot of realtors as they get older, soon as that last transaction comes, their paychecks are done. Right? Like, they're done. And so it's almost like they have to sell for the rest of their life. And I think if you take that mindset of, I'm not just Chad Nash, the agent, but now I'm Chad Nash, the business entity. If you start that even up front, and put those things in place. And even as a new agent, it may not be you have gobs of cash to think about investing or wealth management or your accounting, but even just back to what I was talking about, like the systems, putting in the systems, putting in the business plans, do your business plans and take them serious. Because I remember the first year when I sat down with my coach, and it was like, oh, here's a business plan. I mean, I just breezed through it, like, whatever. Like, it's like trying to just get done with a class assignment. But if you're serious about it, right? And you're letting that structure what you're doing, how you're marketing, how you're engaging your clients for the next year. I mean, it becomes so much more fulfilling, and it is actually less stressful. And you know, every
Good point.
what 3 to 5 years, a organization is doing their strategic plan. Well, for us, every year we should be doing our strategic plan, looking at our values, our morals, our beliefs, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean about treat it as a business. You know, you could come in and get you a couple of deals right off the bat and have more money in 3 months than you may have in a salary position in 1 year. That's fine. Well, soon as that money's gone, what is there?
Then what? Yeah.
Were you fulfilled professionally, personally? You know, is your money being set up to help you in the long run? How much are you going to owe in taxes? You know, that was a hard experience.
Rude awakening, right?
Oh Lord, when they hit you with that. But yeah, just treat it as a business, and you're no longer just an individual, you know, and even yourself, you're working for your Chad Nash LLC entity.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many great nuggets in there. So many. Thank you so much, Chad.
I appreciate it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Kels, anything else that you want to ask? Anything before we let Chad go?
No, really just Chad, do you have anything you want to end with?
Yeah, closing thoughts, nuggets for the audience, anything that comes to mind for you.
Closing thoughts. You know, I guess I'll keep it in going back to the larger context of the pandemic, right? And being mindful of that, but just letting people know, like, hey, we've been through this before. It doesn't mean, you know, we're as old as the other pandemics that have happened, but this is our society, and there's always ebbs and flows, and there is going to be a tomorrow, you know, and it may look and feel different, but just like we came out of the first phase of the pandemic in May and everything felt like it was getting back to normal, it's going to get back to normal. And I would just say, hey, for folks who are getting into business now or looking at doing business in a different way, like now's an opportunity. You know, take this time to just learn as much as you can, and, you know, learn how to make your business stronger coming out of the pandemic. And I think, you know, talking to folks like dear old Barb Riley and, you know, some of the colleagues who have been through these ups and downs of like recessions and things of that sort, this is where I think realtors are made, like the truly great realtors are made during these times. It's the ones that can figure it out and come out ahead on the other side. So don't look at it as fearful, but look at it as opportunity.
I love that. Bravo. I know that's the perfect place to end. Chad, you're amazing. Thank you so much for your time and for having this conversation with us.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And I admire you both from afar for the things that you do in your own industries. And it's just a pleasure being on here.
Thank you. Final question. If people wanted to follow you, learn more about you, where should we send them? Facebook, website, you tell me. Tell us all your places.
Okay, so I have to look now because I'm going to tell you a funny story while I'm looking. Back in the spring, my social media got hacked, all of my accounts. So now I never remember my handles because I had to start all over. So if they're on IG, it would be Dr._Nash_real estate. So Dr._Nash_real estate. You can find me on Facebook, just Chad Nash. Website is www.therealestatedoc.com, www.therealestatedoc.com.
Perfect. We'll link to all those in the description too, so everyone's got them.
Sweet.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Bye.